Hey, what's up, mi gente? It's Anthony Rosa, Mr. Remedy, and you are watching another show on the Roundtable Remedies, and I'm super excited for this cast of speakers. I got an amazing lineup for you tonight. But first, in speaker rotation, I wanted to ask if we can kind of do some intros to start off the show. So, DJ Anthony, kick us off. Where are you calling from?
Ladies and gentlemen, you want the DJ intro? Okay, so I'm out here in Jersey, Bergen County. Thanks for having me on, and looking forward to chatting it up with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And then continuing in speaker rotation, my buddy Paul.
Hello, everybody. Anthony, thank you so much for having me on tonight. I'm calling from Paramus, New Jersey, again, Bergen County. I have no DJ, Anton. I'm not a DJ. So I'm here, and I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And then anchoring us in tonight, my very own pastor, Pastor Pablo.
Hey, everyone. Blessings to everyone. I'm thankful to be here. Thank you, Anthony, for having me. And of course, I'm calling in from Newark, New Jersey.
Brick City, Newark in the house. Hey, we got a Jersey cast, and I'm really excited because the topic is being optimistic. And those that are watching, of course, if you're watching live, we want you to engage with us. So why don't you comment #live? Those that are catching us a little bit later, why don't you catch #replay? And we're going to have some fun tonight. So Roundtable Remedies was created to inspire, connect, and educate you from real people, real stories. And we hope that some of these tips and tricks that you might take tonight or leave with are remedies. And we started this theme this year, and being optimistic was our year for June theme. And when you think of being optimistic, what comes to mind? Sometimes it's really hard, and we got to be really honest with ourselves, right? Sometimes we wake up in the morning and we're just kind of feeling that grogginess, or, sometimes we just don't have that positive mindset or positive attitude. But, tonight we're going to be talking about our stories and some of our challenges and how do we continue to be optimistic through the storm. So I'm really excited, and first up, DJ Anthony, I'm really excited and thankful to have you on and kind of share your story with with our audience. And so, DJ Anthony, tell us a little bit more about what you think about being optimistic.
Muchas gracias, mi amigo. Okay, hey, big shout out to North Bergen, by the way. I grew up there, FYI. Okay, so for me, optimism is not being void of pessimism. I think a lot of times when people think of optimism, they think like you're walking around just all Pollyannic and hi, hi, hi. Like that's not, no, for me, optimism is being positive in the face of negative. So people who know me would say, DJ Anthony, I'm an optimistic, outgoing person, which is true. But I have my down days. I have my negativity. I have my pessimism. I feel like defeated oftentimes. But I think optimism is saying, hey, let me look at the bright side on this, So even in my darkest moments, I say to myself, you know what? Thank God for this bottle of water. Thank God for my lunch. I'm grateful, gratuity, gratefulness every day, no matter what. I think if we're waiting for, the big mansion and the yacht, you know what? You're never going to be happy. Or you're waiting for that marriage or that girl, that guy, you're never going to be happy. I think for me, optimism is looking for the small things every day. Like, wow, that's a beautiful tree. The sunset's beautiful. I am grateful for this food I have. Then you start to become an optimistic person. And again, doesn't mean you're going to be blind to reality, but to look at the good things in life, hour by hour, minute by minute, even in the face of negativity. So for me, that's what optimism means. Is even in death, we've all lost somebody, and in that person's death, I oftentimes think, thank God I had that person in my life. Even in the darkest of moments, looking for that pinhole of light. So that's what optimism means to me. Thank you.
I appreciate that, right? Because what you were mentioning right now, I try to practice from the first time I pick my head up.
Yeah.
I try to get as many small wins as possible. What's a small win? Me waking up and doing my bed.
Yeah.
What's a small win? Me making sure that, my kitchen is organized before the end of the bed, before the night. Those are small wins. I'm not perfect. Lord knows I'm not perfect, right? I'm always trying to be positive and try to control the outcome as much as I can. But there's a reality of it, right? Because a lot of us, we get stuck on the controllable versus uncontrollable. And from what you're sharing with me, I feel like, hey, you got to try to smile through the face of adversity, right? And you got to just try to get those small wins. So, Anthony, what are some of the things that you do when you're not really feeling optimistic? How do you kind of like trick your mind to just not allow it to beat you up?
Right. Good question. Because I think optimism is an action. Ultimately, it's not a feeling. If you're going to wait to feel motivated to do something, you're never going to do anything. You're not going to go to church. You're not going to go to the gym. You're not going to eat right. You're not going to, think of somebody else. So optimism is, so for instance, like I compete in triathlons and a lot of athletic endeavors. And for me, I go to the gym. I go for a walk. When we get up and we walk or move, we know for a scientific fact that exercise, walking, getting out, talking to somebody boosts endorphins in our mind, in our brain. So for me, if I'm feeling down, I just get up and I walk. That's it. Or I get up and I bicycle or walk. Just get up, move, and then you start to feel better because there's a mind-body connection. So, or talking to a friend, getting out. When you get up and move, that's what I do. So when I'm feeling down, I get up and move, and it's a scientific fact. Don't believe me, folks? Look it up. You start to become happier when you're up and moving. And when I am in service to others, when I volunteer, I become happier because it's not about me, 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 me. Look at me, I'm down. Look at me, me, me. It's not about me. When I make it about others, magically, I become happier. So that's what I do.
No, I appreciate that. Pastor Pablo, I saw you nodding your head when he was talking about getting up and moving, and we were kind of having this conversation earlier about it. What were you thinking about?
Well, I love the fact that he said when we're feeling emotional, it's not about feeling. Emotions won't always get you there, but discipline will keep you there. And so that was good because sometimes I don't feel like going to the gym. I don't feel like reading the Bible. I don't feel like doing good things, but disciplining ourselves, which my definition of optimism is mental and emotional discipline or resiliency. So when I don't feel like it, I must do it anyway, right? So there's a portion, I am a pastor, so I apologize in advance, but it's in the good book. And it says the things that I don't want to do. The Apostle Paul was having a battle within himself. He said, there's things that I don't want to do that I wind up doing. And the things that I want that I don't want to do, or that I want to do, sorry, I don't do. Then he concludes and he says, what a miserable man that I am, because it's an eternal war. So there's days that the day that I say I'm not going to the gym or I'm not going to church, it's when I say, you got to get there, man. You got to get there. And that's what gives me optimism. When they see me and say, hey, man, you're here and you just lost somebody, or you have cancer and you're still here. Yeah, no, I forced myself. I made sure I disciplined myself mentally and emotionally to be here. And I'm glad. I don't know if you ever noticed, sometimes you didn't want to be somewhere or you didn't want to go somewhere and you showed up. I'm like, I'm glad I did, right? Because it works out better. So that's why I was nodding, man. He evoked a lot of good emotions in me, man, hearing that. That's good stuff, Anthony.
Yeah. Paul, what are some of your thoughts?
I got to tell you, first of all, I love what both of you said, and chiming in here is, I come from a single family home with 6 kids. My dad was involved with some, iffy things growing up, and I made every wrong turn you could make. And I'm not saying because the pastor's on the other line, we don't know each other, but I learned a lot in the last couple of years who to turn to for optimism. Put your slippers deep under your bed every day. The reason being, because you got to get on your knees to get them slippers. And when you get them slippers, slip in a couple of prayers and thank the man in the sky. Even when things at your worst, at your best, it's easy, right? Thank you, God. When you're at your worst, you're battling a cancer or disease, still thank him. Praise him. You'll get up that morning. Gym, maybe no gym. Great idea for the DJ. You'll be smiling because putting your fate in his hands controls everything in which you have. Turn it over. And I'm not here to preach to you because I didn't plan on this, but I learned in 2 years, Anthony. I come from 6 kids. I own 2 companies, and it's not only being it's not what you make, it's who you help along the way to raise you up. And that's in which gives you that great feeling. Yeah, there's days I get up. I wake up every morning at 10 to 4. I said, 10 to 4.
You wake up early because I see your post with your
3:50
cappuccino.
a.m. I wake up the rooster. When he goes, the rooster goes cock-a-doodle-doo. I look out and says, where you been all night? I don't curse anymore, Pastor. I try not to, but it's really so easy, Anthony. And it can be easy for me to say this now in my position, but I learned a lot from what the pastor preaches probably every week. And it's not just church on Sunday, it's walking it out every single moment of your life. And my life has changed drastically in the last 6 months. And I'm not talking about financials, we do well. That's about it. I could tell you a lot about where I was and where I am, where I want to be. But I know one thing. He said one main thing: without consistency, you have nothing.
Yeah,
You
no,
need to have
absolutely.
consistency.
You know,
Otherwise,
you hit it.
you're spread all over. And I listen a lot to Denzel Washington, and I listen to him speak. And motivationally, I think he's a genius in that area. And I'm happy to be here tonight, and I'm open for any questions, my brother.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. You know, shout out to Biagio for connecting with us. He
Oh,
said here, Paul has a huge heart and always the first to help others. We thank you, Biagio. Very nice words.
that guy's a great entertainer right there. He's one of the best Italian American entertainers in this country.
Oh, we're shouting you out,
No
Biagio.
joke. Look him
You
up.
know,
He's very talented. He's so humble. It's crazy. He's not good. He's great. And he gives to every cause there is. And that's, it's not what you make. It's not what, it's what you do with it. It's
yeah.
easy to put 6 figures or 9 figures or 12 figures. But imagine how many people laying in them streets every day that if you could just help 5 or 10 of them a day, you did your job.
And you know, I never experienced a church, and not unexpected part of the conversation to hear it well. But you know, Paul, you brought it in. You know, Pastor Pablo and Temple Rock and the leaders over there. You know, in Newark, New Jersey, in the summer, just pounding the pavement. You know, praying and putting hands over people. I mean, you know, talk about that in an area or a city where we need to be more optimistic, and we need to, you know, raise each other up. So Paul, I really appreciate you just bringing that in and talking about the power in prayer. What's up?
Can I say one more thing before you guys get? I don't want to take
Yeah.
over. So when you dealt a bad hand of cards, you don't have to keep it that way. I grew up in the inner city. I told you 6 kids in the projects of West New York. And I tell kids, when I speak to kids, it's like when I tell them, they're like, no way, man. It can't be. You got to fight through that. And it's hard to, because inner city kids are up against it, because at 5 and 6 and 7 years old, nobody's home. Nobody's teaching them right from wrong. There's 1 out of 10 that might shine. The other 9 would have shined if they had any bit of discipline or structure. And it's our job. I want to come help you in the streets of Newark. Anytime you need help financially or physically, you give me a buzz, because that's so brilliant, reaching them kids. I was one of them boys. My dream is to open the Dreams Come True Center for underprivileged kids. I'm getting very close, where you swipe in and swipe out. I know where to go. 6 kids. I was the youngest. I got lost in a shuffle many times. I had my cocaine battles. I had all them battles to go ahead, selling drugs. I thought that was the right way to live life. I learned the hard way. But I'm here for you guys. If you ever need me to step in, I'll do anything with you guys. And especially in Newark, especially in West New York and North Bergen. They're my neighborhoods.
Yeah.
I grew up in Sunshine Gardens. There was never any sunshine, but it's called Sunshine Gardens. Yeah. We had our trials and tribulations, but now in life, God has granted me enough that I help. I do 50 turkeys for Thanksgiving, 50 baskets, and I'm not here to brag about that, but
look, we got to frame it, right? We're not here to brag,
no.
Right? Roundtable Remedies was here to inspire, connect, and educate. And we want you to be a better version of yourself. And so you're hearing it from individuals that are non-paid, coming on, and they're sharing their stories because they've been through it. You know, I appreciate you, Paul, and we're going to come back around to you so we can know a little bit more about your story. But Anthony, I wanted to ask you a question before we go on to Paul. You know, what was a time or a challenge that you faced and you really, really had to rely on optimism?
Yeah, and you know this because we spoke about it earlier. But you know, a couple of years back during COVID, there was an 8-month span where I got divorced, lost my Aunt Lucy to COVID, lost my one and only child to suicide, and I lost my business, all in 8-month span. So to say that crap was really coming down, all within 8 months is very difficult. And you know how I got through that is. And I'm nobody special. I don't have any special powers or special sauce. But how I got through that was, you know, relying on a team. No man, no woman is an island. And I relied on my church, my friends, family, proper nutrition, proper sleep, proper exercise. And that helped me become optimistic, not looking at because there's a lot of death to look at. I mean, I lost my business, I lost my Aunt Lucy, I lost my son, I lost my marriage, all in 8 months. And so, yeah, devastating is an understatement. I mean, of course, I was, as you can imagine, in the darkest of dark. But every day I looked for a pinhole of light. And again, through my church, my friends, my family. And if you're listening to this and you're not Christian, you're a Muslim, you're a Jew, you're, Hindu, whatever, you're an atheist, you have to have a team around you, friends, family, your community group. You can't go do it alone. No man, no woman is an island. And through proper nutrition, I didn't touch the alcohol. I didn't go doing drugs. And by the way, I don't blame somebody if they break and they start doing drugs and they hide underneath their bed and they give it up and they can't go on. No judgment. I get it. I was on that line. And but God helps those who help themselves. And so I know I wanted to do honor to my son. I know my son would, looking down from heaven, would kick me in my ass, excuse my French, if I gave up, So to honor his legacy, to honor him, to honor my Aunt Lucy she was from West New York, actually, I stood up, but I stood on people's shoulders. I didn't do it alone. And as every day went by, as every minute went by, the light became bigger and brighter. And now, I celebrate the life of my Aunt Lucy. I celebrate my son. And of course, there are moments I miss them and I have a scar, but I move on and I move on with them in my heart. So my point is, if I can do it, whoever is listening to this, you might be going through a loss of a job or loss of a relationship. This is not, excuse my French, this is not a pissing match. It's not, oh, well, my heartache is worse than yours. It's not about that. It doesn't matter whether you're in World War II or you just broke up with your girlfriend or boyfriend. Your hurt matters. Your pain matters. And how you address it matters. If you're going to start drinking alcohol and doing drugs or quitting, things are going to get worse. So step by step, get a therapist, talk to your priest, your rabbi, your imam, your whoever, your community group, talk to friends, talk to family, reach out for the people who love you. So that's what I did. And that's how I got through. My dog, I mean, thank God for my dog, Rocky, thank God for music. Thank God for eating, all these little things come together to help us, So that's how I stayed optimistic. And of course, I had pessimistic and negative moments, no doubt, crying. I cried so hard, Anthony, that I'm not joking. I urinated on myself, and I might get choked up now, but I don't know. At my son's funeral, I cried so hard that I urinated on myself. Like, I'm getting choked up now, but I've lost a lot of people in my life, but I've never urinated on myself. Like, that's how bad it was, So, and now I stand before you. I wake up, I'm grateful, I'm happy. I have a life. I am fortunate and I help others and I make my life not about me. Like I thank God for everything that I have. And by the way, there were moments that I cursed God. I wanted to punch God in his face. Why me? I go to church. I'm a good person. I pay my taxes. I don't do drugs. I don't do bad things. Why is these bad things happening to me? The story of Job, right? But so I had a choice. I could damn God forever and nobody would blame me. But I always say, people say, oh, God is great when they get what they want. Well, how about God is great when you don't get what you want? You want to impress me? You want to be a good Christian? Thank God for when you get bad things. Say God is great. Then you'll impress me. But it's easy to say thank God. God is great when I got my $1 million. God is great when my family came home safe. My son didn't come home, but I still said thank you, God, for this meal. Thank you for, I don't blame anybody for losing their faith. I don't blame anybody. You know what I mean? No judgment. But for me, that's how I got through it, step by step. It didn't happen overnight, and like I said, I am grateful for what I have, and I have a happy life now.
First of all, I want to say thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that. And, for if somebody was to see you and see your social media posts and, you seem like so happy, and a lot of us portray that, especially on social media. What we see is really not what is really going on. And
right.
I'll put this up again one more time. For the state of New Jersey, the Division of Mental Health and Addiction Services, you can look it up online. Please, if you guys are feeling any kind of suicidal thoughts or you're going through a funk, you can reach out to me. You could reach out to one of the brothers here.
You can dial 988, free hotline, anonymous, 988 nationwide hotline.
Yep, right there. Exactly. I wanted to put this out because, again, we have to support each other. And, I saw Pastor Pablo, you were nodding your head. So, with that, I wanted to kind of, see what was going through your mind.
Yeah, I'm inspired by DJ Anthony's story, his vulnerability, and as he was speaking, he mentioned the words. I mean, I'm telling you, this guy's on point today. The words that I was thinking of while he was speaking, I said, "Man, this man had a Job-like experience." And for those that don't know Job, it's spelled Job. Get a job, right? Job, right? And it's a story. Life is about power of storytelling, and it is the way, the book, the good book is written with 66 books, and there are a lot of great stories in there. And one of the stories are of a man named Job who lost everything. He lost his children, lost his wife. His health was deteriorating, but his optimism kicks in. We're talking about optimism tonight. He said, "The Lord gave, the Lord taketh away, but in all moments, blessed be the name of the Lord." That is rough. He just lost all his children, his cattle. In other words, his home, his animals, all his belongings, his riches, everything. Plus, he started getting boils on his body. And his wife tells him, "Curse your God and die." I mean, everybody gave up on him. Yet he says these words. He says, "Hey, the Lord gives and the Lord takes away.
Right.
But in all, let the Lord, the name of the Lord be blessed." That's
Right.
optimism.
Right.
And so that's what DJ Anthony is saying. He said, "Listen, you got to get up and saying it could be worse." You
Well,
know,
don't. And by the way, don't get me wrong, Pastor. Like I said, I wanted to punch God in his face. Like
yeah,
I wasn't happy with God. It wasn't like yeah. I mean, I was very, very angry. And like I said, how dare you do this to me and my family? Because we go to church, we do good things, and so I wasn't. Yeah, man. Yeah, but that was a process over time. I began
it's part of
to.
the grieving process, and
Right.
is
And by the way, my pastor says, and I agree, you can hate God. God's a big boy. He can handle it. Like
oh
it's
yeah,
okay. Throw up, get it out. Because to hold it in, that's what the devil wants. Like God loves you. God loves us. It's okay to say you're not happy with God and you're angry with God and pump your fist at the
yeah,
sky. That's
yeah.
okay. We are children, and God gets it. God made us. So don't feel bad. Give yourself grace that you're angry with God. It's okay. Let
It's
that
good.
throw that up, get it out, and so that's what I did. But
Well, I think, you know, the theme at Temple Rock is Build Back Better, right? And if you guys go on YouTube for another shameless plug, I think last service talked a lot about this, and Pastor Pablo and the team, you guys hit it on the money. So, build back better. And look, if you guys are going through a funk and you feeling like you have to just blame somebody, it's okay if you're blaming God or if you're blaming yourselves. Just you got to really understand that there's power in words, right? And you just got to not be so hard on yourself, right, DJ Anthony? I mean, I can only imagine if you were so hard on yourself and you just kind of just felt sorry and was just angry at the world and at
yes.
everybody. Who knows what that could have,
Yeah, and
done
by the
to
way,
you.
I blame myself for my son's death. I said, what could I have done as a father? What did I do wrong? Maybe I should have said this or done this or how did this? Because it's my son. Like, how did I? Like, did I do something? Like, yeah, right. I started blaming myself. That's a bad road too. Because I am a good dad. I was a good dad, but like it's team effort. Like if my son went to Harvard, I would say, oh, I had something to do with that. Yeah, that's my boy. He fall. But then when the negative happens, I can't wash my hands of that. Like, what did I do? Now, so, but it's a tightrope. It's like, I have to be careful because God gives us free will. God gave my son free will too. So, he didn't deserve what happened to him, but I can't, it's a very dangerous road to go down to play the blame game, but I was for a hot minute saying, what did I do wrong? What could I have done to prevent my son from doing drugs and committing suicide? What did I do? What did I? And again, through therapy and friends and family, you can navigate that, but you can't do it alone.
Well, again, DJ Anthony, I want to just applaud you. I want to acknowledge. I want to raise you up. I want to say thank you. I want to continue to encourage you. Don't go anywhere, as we're going to continue the show. And I can't wait to hear your final thoughts in the final thoughts segment. Paul, you talked a little bit about your story and your upbringing and coming from a family of six and having a father who was in a little bit of this and a little bit of that. How did you get through to be the man you are? So helping on Thanksgiving, being so giving, trying to give back. If someone that is a statistic or has gone through something that you went through, you could kind of be like, forget about it. I'm going to do my own thing, right? So what happened or changed that you wanted to just really break the curse, or what I say is break the generational curse?
Okay, first, DJ Anthony.
Yes, sir.
Your story is amazing.
Thank you, dude.
DJ Anthony, when you said a couple times you're nothing, you're wrong. You're something. You have that look in your heart. I'm looking at your eyes. I see your heart. What happened to your son, I can't imagine what you went through. I'm choked up for you. There's a couple things you said there that I was mad at you for. I don't even know you. When you kept saying, I'm really nothing. No, you are, brother. You are God's kid. You are creation. You're a vessel, but you're special. I'm not picking on you. Trust me. I'm hurt by that story, but don't start out with that. I'm nothing. Because that offended me. You're something. You're a lot. You can take that from there. I come from 6 kids that were raised by my mom. 2 passed away early. My mom married my dad, Peter Bruno. My dad was involved in the Bruno. It's a pretty strong name in the Philadelphia, in a different part of our area. And my mom wasn't raising us like that. My mom raised us. She worked 3 jobs. And she showed us that we're all equal. There's only one race, the human race. We grew up in the projects of West New York. We were so poor. I watched her go to bed hungry. And she was my superhero. She used to bring people in that were getting abused by their parents. And I'm like, Ma, Harvey and Harold Bass, I'm not letting them go home. Back in the days in the 70s and 80s, it wasn't like today. You can't harbor somebody in your house. They would call it kidnapping. She was keeping them from alcoholic parents until they went to the police and we talked about it. My mother was my superhero. My mother fed everybody. My mother worked 3 jobs. We never not seen my mom because at night she worked after we went to bed. In the morning she worked after we went to school. My mother was my superhero in my life. And she taught us discipline, work hard, pays off, and don't be jealous, be envious, and say to yourself every day, I'm worthy. And I'm not upset that Tommy has the Cadillac or Bobby has a nice house. Say, I want that someday. And look at the goal, make a goals list every day, and make a plan and go get it. My mother wasn't only divorced from my father and raising 6 kids. She lost 2 at 8. My mother actually went blind from macular degeneration. So she wasn't just my mom. She was my superhero. And she taught me how to give. And by giving and not expecting anything better, the man in the sky just gives you favor. And by giving me favor, I was able to give out more. By giving me favors, everything. Don't get me wrong. I made many mistakes. My first business, and I'll say it right on this, was cocaine. I was a cocaine dealer at a different level many years ago. And I got myself in trouble. I'm 60, and I don't know if I'm supposed to say it, but I want to say it. At 20, I grew up in Hudson County, a town called West New York, New Jersey. You just talked about your Aunt Lucy, right?
Yep.
All we knew back then was beepers and hustling for drugs. And kids in the inner city today, why would they want to go to work at McDonald's when they make $9.65 when somebody can hustle them on the street for $200 a day? And that's the problem we have in the inner cities. Nobody's teaching them. And if you're a kid today, they show you $200 bills or a paycheck of $76. Which one are you going to take? If nobody taught you that discipline or structure, of course you're going to grab at the 200. And that's what the drug dealers and the hustlers are doing to kids today. We need to use the Lord's favor and go out and get them kids. If we rescue 1 out of 10, we rescued 1. If we rescued half out of 20, we rescued half. Only half person. We rescued somebody. And by the grace of God, I had some good men. I listened to their leads. And, the owner of Fairway Market is a dear friend of mine and business people that taught me business and structure. And by the grace of God, I got myself to be positive and help and do charities and go from there. But Anthony, your story is a lot more powerful than mine, my brother.
Oh, thanks.
You got knocked off your feet. You lost
Understatement.
your aunt, you lost your son, you lost your job, COVID hit, and you got back up on your feet.
And I lost my marriage too. Yeah, all
And
in 8 months.
there's a saying. Vince Lombardi always had this saying: "It doesn't make a difference how you get knocked down. It makes a difference how you pick yourself back up."
I agree. You know, Paul, it's funny you mentioned that because the other thing that helped me out was when you mentioned Vince Lombardi. I've been an athlete my whole life, and in the moments during that time where I lost a lot of, my Aunt Lucy, my son, my marriage, and my business, I also relied on the discipline of my coaches in football and basketball and track and field all throughout high school. And I always say this too: sports helped me also get through this because I always say school prepares you for a job, sports prepares you for life. And boy, was I leaning on my coach's memories and my coach's words. I was like, I can just, yeah, I
You
just thank God I played sports too, because it really, really helped me get through the darkest of dark. On top of course, God and family and friends, but the sports really, hearing my coaches in my echoes in my mind, really helped me out a lot.
So what, Anthony? You just spoke about coaches. What were them coaches? Were they not men helping children? Were they not men helping inner city youth?
Of course,
That's exactly what we have to do.
right?
They were just volunteers or partially paid.
Yeah,
Not everyone was great. Not every police officer is great. Not every teacher is great. But
No.
there's a few you'll remember for the rest of your life.
of course.
You'll hear that echo in your mouth. Get back up, Bruno.
Yeah,
Get
yeah,
back up. Are
yeah.
you? Get back up. Fight
Yeah.
through it. So
Yeah.
that's exactly what I'm talking about, helping the inner city. And that's what we went through. And on July 7th, 7 years ago, I lost my mom. And when my mother was 82, she died of cancer. So she lived a miserable life, basically. But I said to her on a dying deathbed, I said, Mom, what would you do different? She said to me, I wouldn't do anything different. I got exactly what I wanted, you guys. And she sat there and she said to me, she was blind for years, just go after your dreams every day and fight hard like you were taught to fight.
Right.
What I learned in the last 2 years, I can't do it by myself. Iron sharpens iron. Put your front line, 10 men around you, keep them curved to you. You text each other back and forth with your darkest moments, and we all help each other. But the only thing I learned more than anything else, and don't get me wrong, I still made a mistake 6 months ago. I'm not going to lie sitting here. Turn it to God. Put it in the book, study, something, whatever makes it work for you. But get up every morning, put them slippers down there and say, Lord, I'm here. Guide me where I need to be. It's in your hands. And be faithful to him and walk the walk in the street during the day and preach you got to preach. Let the Holy Spirit come through you. And I got to tell you, there's no coach in the world, not even my mother or father, and no guidance that put me where that book's put me. All of the answers we need, and we're so thick-headed, and I'm going to end it quickly. I'm sorry. I'm keep going on. All the answers we need are in that book. If we read that magical book, that's why it's the bestseller every year for how many years?
Yeah. Okay. I just want to interject. It's funny you mentioned that because there's a saying that there is only God. And I always say, make nothing your Jesus. My money's not my Jesus. My family's not my Jesus. My life is not my Jesus. So I don't worship anything but Jesus. So that also helped me through that dark time because there's only one God. So the house, the car, the vacations, the food, my own life is not, I don't worship. Of course, take care of yourself, honor God through your life. But when things go south, cool, I can lose my house. It ain't my Jesus. I could lose anything. Ain't my Jesus. I walk right through it. So because there's only one God. So that's what I see also,
Anthony, both Anthony's and Pastor, there's no feeling like it. I got to tell you, I may sound like I'm juiced up on Jesus freak, whatever they said that to me. One guy told me one day, man, you're a Jesus freak. I said, but what? You shouldn't be preaching. I said, listen, enough.
Uh-huh.
I'm not going to sit here and preach it like that. But the answers, we all make our mistakes still, even though the answers are there. But it's really a lot easier and you have a lot less stress at that point when you just turn it over. I'm just realizing now, listen, I have a lot of material things and I bless the Lord for it. But I wasn't always there. It was 6 years ago. I went to Anthony Rosa over there. He's sitting in that corner to help me correct my credit because I went through my second divorce. And that's for you down in the corner, DJ Anthony. 6 years ago. Now my bank account, and I'm not here to brag to you, looks pretty strong. And he helped me, but who helped me the most? By helping other people help me. It's a selfish move. Selfish. There's nothing more selfish than helping other people. It's so selfish because you get such gratification out of it. It goes day by day by day by day. I know strangers that I put a post up every 2 months, and I'm again, if you need help eating, I drove down to Vineland. A guy gets on Facebook. He says, I know this is probably a hoax or a money making scheme. First of all, I'm not even good at. I don't even get on a computer. I'm terrible at it. I want a trim line phone. I get back to him. I said, I give him my number. Nobody gives it out online, which I'm stupid. He calls me. Hey, man, is this real? I said, what do you mean, is this real? I'm in Vineland. I need something to eat. I said, where are you? Vineland, New Jersey. I was going into the Lincoln Tunnel. My day's going on. I drove to Vineland, New Jersey. He thought it was some type of a scam. I went there. I took him to a ShopRite. I bought him food. First when I got there, I was afraid to come out. Hey, somebody to take me? What's going on there? I said, listen, you asked me for help. I'm coming to give you help. Each and every one of us, it wasn't me because I'm not that nice. I'm not that kind, Anthony. It was the Holy Spirit. That's not me. I would tell him, that's me. The other guy that intersects into me and makes me do them things, it's not me. I know it's not. I'm being moved by the Holy Spirit. Went to his house in Vineland, got him whatever he wanted to eat. He was crying. I was crying. I sat there. I took him to lunch. He has a half a heart. He has grandkids he had to take care of because his daughter died of a drug overdose. When you listen to them stories, you sit in your car and you go, God, thank you so much. Help him. We come from an unbelievable God. The quicker we learn that, the quicker we can do good for others. And I have so much to talk about. I can't keep talking.
Hey, Paul, listen, that's what it's all about, right? And I appreciate it. These stories, they're not just made up fictional stories. This is what we live by, you know? And I can relate so much, you know, because I never thought that I would be in a position where I can rise to the call where someone needs help. And you know, Paul, you threw me out there, you know, helping you 6 years ago. I don't even throw that out. I don't even use this platform to talk about credit because I want to elevate others. And I just want to say thank you so much, right? Because I battle that inside voice. My racing thoughts try to control me.
You know what it is?
They tell me
It's
I'm not
the devil,
good
brother.
enough, you know, and these racing thoughts are just so intrusive. And I'm like, why does my mind wire like this? Why am I thinking this way? And I really got to stop, shake my head like I got marbles. I'm not listening to you. If this is the enemy or the devil or someone just trying to play games with me. And I'm like, no, I'm going to give it to God. I'm going to let go. And I just thank you so much for that.
I do it. I'm the other day screaming. I'm in my wife's in the bed. I'm like, it's like 1:30 in the morning because I wake up, I write notes down. I'm nuts. All of a sudden I go, you're not getting me today. And she goes, what? Are you sleeping? I says, no, I wasn't talking. She says, what the hell are you talking to? It's 1:30 in the morning. Can I go to bed? This for me right now is late. And I love doing this for you guys. 7:30, I'm out because I'm up at 10 to 4 with the rooster. And she goes, what are you talking? I says, I learned at my TLC that talk to him, tell him get away from me because it's the truth. You start preaching, you start doing something, start speaking, he moves away from you, man. The better you do, the more he chases you. The better you do, the more he chases you. The better you do, the more he chases you. I'm going to end this little quick, take me 2-minute story. My mother's dead 7 years ago. I went to get a contract, and I'm in Trump International getting a contract, and there's 1,200 rooms, and they look at all the rooms. I got to do a glass demonstration. So they pick room number 308. That was my address as a kid. That's not even done. My mother's name was Dale. They go, we're going to go do room 308. I start getting choked up. This is 3 years. He goes, what's the matter? I said, that was my address growing up, and I'm real emotional about my mother. So we go. All of a sudden, they get on the walkie-talkies. We're going to meet down at Dale Court. Oh, I said, what did he just say? Dale Court, down below Trump International. My mother's name was Dale. I start getting choked up. The director of engineering for Trump goes, what's the matter? I said, I'm sorry. I said, I'm really sorry. He goes, man, what's the matter? I says, my mother's name was Dale. We grew up at 308 69th Street in Gothenburg, New Jersey. I said, I know, and he put his arm around me. He goes, I love to see this. This shows me you have what I'm looking for. They retained my company to do all Trump International windows. And I was so choked up. Today I'm there again to do the corking. One room, they got to pick. They're not picking it. They have a whole other group that they picked 308 again for the corking sample. I'm like, the guy Ed Boyd, he goes, are you kidding me? To the guy he looks at me and says, you know what room number that is, right, Ed? He goes, that's your old address because now we become friends when you're a kid. God is incredible. Incredible. When you walk the walk and you help people, he rains it down on you. That's why I'm choked up. That's just today. He rains it down on you. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, man. You guys, I'm happy I'm here tonight because you're like my therapist tonight, guys. I'm sorry.
Hey, Pastor Pablo, I see that you were nodding your head. What are you thinking? What's going on?
Well, I just love what I hear. I think that this is probably more therapeutic for me, and it's a blessing to hear all of you. You know what Paul was saying, and I love his name because it's my name in English. It's Pablo. So, but what he was saying is something that's awesome because God is in the details, and we know that the good book says that the steps of the righteous are ordered by God. So there's nothing that happens by coincidence. If the number 308 is called out, it's because God is sending a wink from heaven. God is letting you know, I'm in this, and walk through those doors. Walk through the doors that I give you. You know, when the reason a lot of people ask me, why do you do what you do? I've been a pastor in the inner city in Newark, New Jersey for 14 years. And they ask me, why do you do this? And I've walked with the mayor. I've walked with people that probably in ideology I don't see eye to eye with. Politically, I don't see eye to eye with. The governor has been to our church. Different people I've worked with. And again, it's not to toot our own horn, but they ask me, why do you do what you do? And I tell everybody, because at 8 years old, I made a promise. I made a promise that I will always talk about God wherever I go. Now, I didn't know how that would look at 8 years old, making a promise that way. But the promise was that if God was to heal my mother and my father from crack and cocaine, because they were both addicts, and my father was an alcoholic, he was a professional boxer, and he used to use my mother as a punching bag. I witnessed domestic violence, and it was prevalent in my home. And I witnessed my dad take a fork and put it in my mother's left ear, blow her eardrums open, splatter blood. I seen him take a bat to her left knee and shatter that. And many times I would ask her, Mom, why do you stay with him? And she would say, because I love him. And I used to say, well, if this is love, then I don't want nothing to do with this. But I remember, I remember that when she was in her own world and they were in their own world, she lost 13 children because every time they got high, she would lose the kids and she would lose the babies and so forth. And only 3 were born. And out of the 3, I'm the middle child. And so my oldest sister was born addicted to crack and cocaine. And my youngest brother was born addicted to crack and cocaine because my mother would get high on her own supply. And she would get high when she was drug dealing and doing all this. And she would get high. But a lot of people ask me, then what happened with you? Well, again, what I said in answer to Paul, and this is that the steps of the righteous are ordered by God. Sometimes we can throw our fist up to heaven and say, why, God? Like DJ Anthony said earlier. But when my mother was pregnant of me, I was in her womb. She was arrested for 9 months. And wow. So I was born in prison. But she had no choice but to get cleaned up. And so every time a mayor, a governor, a leader, a community person asks me, hey, why do you do what you do? I say, because I made a promise to God at 8 years old that if he would help my family clean up, I will tell everybody about who he is. Well, I can tell you this, that my brother, who was younger than I, was mute till he was 7 years old. My sister, that she was told she'll never graduate past high school because of, they were born that way. They both went on and graduated from high school. My mother cleaned up because I went to a small church. I made a prayer and I said, God, if you're real, and the pastor, small church, no more than 13 people. He said, anybody have a prayer? I said, if God is real, please. I beg that my mother gets healed from this. She cleaned up her life. Just today, I was talking to her. She's in a nursing home now, but she's clean, never touched drugs for more than 27 years. My father cleaned up his act. He passed away of a heart attack, but he died believing God, and they came together, and so much so many stories that I hear you guys, and I'm inspired. And no shameless plug here, but I was telling Anthony earlier that so much that I had to put it in a book, and it's called "If You Only Knew." Because
Yeah.
a lot of people ask,
Where do I get that book?
"Oh man, I got it coming to you. Don't worry, it's right there." Pablo
There's a
Pizarro.
word from the sponsor. There's a word from the sponsor. If you
And-
only knew, 1995 at Barnes and Noble.
and there you go. That's
We're
why.
loaded for Amazon Prime.
That's why I call it "If You Only Knew," because so many people see me now. I've never touched drugs. So you want to talk about optimism? I've never drank. I've never. Why? Because I use what the enemy meant for evil. I use it as my fuel to bless me. So Romans chapter 8, and I don't want to be preachy because that's not what it's about. But Romans chapter 8 tells us in verse 28 that all things work for good for those that love God. And everybody here and everybody listening to us, I know some way, somehow you love God. And so whatever comes to you, it's all going to work out for the good. And so I don't sit here and say, man, my mom was a crackhead. Man, my dad was a domestic violence abuser. You know what I did with all that? Now today, I run a program in the inner city. I go to schools teaching about gender-based violence and domestic violence. I work with the state of New Jersey, with the office of the governor, helping people how to educate young men how not to put their hands on women, how to treat them. Why? Because that affected me in a different way. That's optimism for me. That's me saying, hey, you don't have to go through what I went through. I teach them little things like, hey, walk on the other side of the sidewalk, protect your wife, old school things, And so I teach them how to groom, how to dress, how to put on a tie, because I want to give back what wasn't given to me, what I didn't see my dad doing. I use that. That is optimism 101. I go into the high schools. I tell them, hey, I'm a product. I'm a son and of a crackhead mom and an alcoholic dad. But guess what? They were good. They're good now, and they overcame that. And so so many amazing things. And that's why I do what I do. And I think that we all were born with a purpose. We were all born with a purpose. And if I want to finish with saying that sometimes God will trust you with suffering. He will trust you with suffering. He knows what you can handle, and he knows that it won't break you because he's the one that created you. And so it didn't come to break you, but it comes to help you. And he can trust you with it because it'll only make you stronger. So that's why I do what I do. I do it unorthodox. Anthony knows because he goes by the church. And I go out. We give out tons of food to the community. We do it on the church's back. We give out clothes every 2 weeks. Why? Because I was the kid that didn't have clothes. I was the kid that didn't have food. So our stories are similar. And guess what? That's what there's no way that Anthony could put this together knowing this is all God orchestrated. This is all God orchestrated.
Always.
So you said God is in the details, right? So I got an Anthony, I got two Pauls, I got two Anthony. I mean, how does this, get set up?
Well, that's
and that's DJ
that's
Anthony's middle
Pablo.
name.
That's
Yeah.
Pablo. I'll be
No,
Pablo.
I know, of course. But real quick, I wanted to take an excerpt here, if you guys don't mind for a minute. It's page 41. If you have the book, of course, and it talks about, it's a devotional. Life pushes you hard, and I'll read. Sometimes life can be rough and brutal. I compare life to a bully who constantly pushes you around until you've had enough. Have you ever felt like life hasn't been kind to you? Some common experiences include the untimely or unexpected death of a loved one, betrayal by those you love the most, and a series of bad experiences where it feels like you just can't catch a break. There's more to it, but you're going to have to read this. Pastor Pablo, what was going through your mind when you were putting this? Because talking about optimism on the show, these 3 points came out by no coincidence. So what comes to you now? Life pushes you hard.
Yeah, life does push you hard because life is our greatest lesson in or our greatest school in life. We can get all the degrees we want. We can get very intellectual. We can get a master's, a bachelor's. But none of that, that's good, but none of that will teach you what life can teach you. And sometimes life can be our hardest lesson. And you heard Paul earlier spoke on a man who had a half a heart, a man who was taking care of his grandkids, who lost his daughter to drugs. You heard about DJ Anthony telling us how he lost his son to suicide. That's life throwing you curveballs. That is life banging you on the face and not asking any questions. And so sometimes life, because we're fallen, from the moment that Adam and Eve decided to take from the fruit, the forbidden tree, from that moment, life started banging humans in the face. And there was nothing that we can do about it until the day we go to heaven. And so I was thinking there, man, life has been, I can say here and I can be a victim, or I can say I'm going to surpass this. And so in that chapter, in page 41, I'm saying, man, my dad got arrested. He wasn't raised very well, so he didn't know how to raise us well. It was just a life of generational curses. My mother got raped by her own father at 8 years old. They didn't believe her, so they sent her to a nursing home. To a juvenile detention center home. And from there up till she was 17, she was there. And then she met a man who left her all within a year. Then she meets my father. He beats her. I'm talking about life was just throwing her curveballs, throwing my father curveballs, and it tried to reach our generation. It tried to reach me. And we can sit here and say, woe is me, or we can say, no, I'm going to take life and I'm not going to bow down to it. I'm not going to lay down. No matter what comes, I'm going to fight. I'm going to be strong. I'm not going to give up. And so it reminds me to finish off of a story of, there was a gang of 12. I heard Paul say, get a group of 10 together, right? But there was 12 guys who got together on the directions of Moses. And Moses, he tells these 12 guys, go and check out a better land where milk and honey flows. And I want you to be spies. Tell me if that land is good. Tell me if you can enter it and we can take it over and make it ours. Well, the 12 come back and 10 of the 12 said, nope, we can't do it. There's giants in the land. We're going to get beat up. There's fortresses. We can't take it over. But there was 2 young men that said, of course we could take it. I don't care if there's giants in the land. We could eat them like butter, like bread and butter. Read it. That's what it says. He said, we could eat them. They were optimistic. They didn't care if there was giants in the land. And that's how I feel. I don't care if there's drug addictions, if there's alcoholism, if there's broken homes, if there's death, if we're grieving. We can overcome all things through Christ who strengthens us. We can make this happen. There's nothing too hard for God. All we have to do is put our hope and our trust in God, not in the Jesus house, like Anthony said, DJ Anthony said, not in the DJ car, not in the Jesus cars or money. All that is fleeting. It all dies. It goes away. But one thing that will never go away is God's promise to us that we can do all things through him who strengthens us. So again, not to be preachy, but it's what I do. And I've been doing it since 8 years old. This for me is not a career. This is a purpose. This is a lifestyle. And things have gotten hard. I'm raising 2 kids. But listen, everybody told me, don't get married. Look what happened to your family. My family members, look what happened to your kids. Don't do that. Nobody in my father's family ever got married. They just lived. And in New York, they would do a common marriage, because if you were too long together, they'll say, man, we're just going to, the state would just say you're married. I had that in my mind, like, never get married. And, I can tell you today, I've been married to one woman straight out of high school. I didn't have to repeat what my family did. 26 years next month, I'll be married to this. I have a 25-year-old daughter who graduated with a bachelor's and master's from Montclair State University. I have a son who's 23 who got his associates from Rutgers University in business, who's going to be a firefighter in the city of Newark. And my teacher, my daughter currently teaches 7th grade in the city of Newark. We broke those chains. Yes, why? Sir. Faith did it. Optimism did it. We can do better. And we don't have to stay there and lie dead to our circumstances. You got this. So that's why I do what I do. And that's what was going through my mind Page 41 of my book, If You Only Knew. People see you. They see you driving a nice car. They see the story of my daughter. They see the story of my son. They see my wife. I'm like, man, how'd you do it? Woo. My question to them is, if you only knew. If you only knew. So DJ Anthony, they can see him smiling. Paul, they can see you on Facebook posting at 4 a.m. And I'm like, why do you do what you do? If you only knew how I got there. That's the premise of it.
Perfect.
You know,
That's a word from the sponsor. 1995 at Amazon. Barnes and Noble's $21.95 and TJ Maxx for free.
DJ Anthony, I saw you nodding your head a couple of times through that. What was going through your mind?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, like I said before, right? There's only one God, and we put our faith in Him, and we can't put our faith in money or material belongings, or even, I mean, you have to have friends and family, but ultimately, nothing is above God. Our own children are not above God. God is first and before our family, before our own lives. And if you have that pecking order, things will, it's not going to be easy, but you'll be able to manage through.
Absolutely. So right now, as we're rounding third base, today's show kind of flew with time. Right now we're going to go into the final thoughts of the show. So in speaker rotation, we would like for you to just kind of give your final thoughts. So Anthony, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, again, optimism is a choice. You can't wait to feel good. You have to go out and make it happen. Again, go out for exercise, be of service to others, volunteer, and then you become happy. If you're going to wait for optimism, it's never going to happen. And again, have that pecking order. We're Christian, but whether you're a Jew, a Muslim, a Hindu, or whatever, have the pecking order, and the pecking order can't be money and material stuff, and even relationships. God is first, and then the pecking order. Optimism is a choice, and it's okay if you're feeling down. We're humans. We're not always going to be happy every second of every day. That's okay to have a down moment, a down day, a down week, a down month. That's okay. But look for the small things. Be grateful, gratitude. So thank you.
Thank you. Very well said. Optimism is a choice, and we can choose it every day. Paul, final thoughts.
First of all, I had a great time. Thank you for having me. I'm going to call Pablo Paul. Anthony, you're a champ.
Thank you, dude.
Anthony up top, you're definitely a champ. And I say this, and it's hard to say. It's hard for people to do it. Don't live in yesterday. Don't live in tomorrow. Try to live in the moment. It's the most difficult thing to do is to live in the moment. You can stay optimistic, but we all make mistakes. There's nobody to judge each other. We're all brothers. There's one race, the human race. But when we look back at our mistakes, it prevents us from moving forward at the pace and loving forward. We make mistakes. Pray to God, repent your sins, and things will work out. If I'm going to speak to a young man today, if I had a young man in front of me, it'll be difficult because the world is different than when I grew up. But there's one thing that's the same, and it's the God we live under. There's one thing that's the same. Pablo's book is great, but the bestseller is incredible. That book has every single answer we need. But our problem is, I believe our ego is the devil. That's my true belief. I don't know. I'm not a pastor. I just believe when you're out there and you see that nice piece with the little mini skirt, that's the devil. Always remember that woman you have at home is much more beautiful than that piece of chum that's toting along the street.
Hey, somebody needs to hear this right now.
She's a human, but stay focused. And we learned something earlier. The word is consistency. Stay consistent every single day and walk that walk. And I can guarantee you, you walk that walk, you read that book, you wake up the rooster, he's just going to sprinkle down favor onto you. And that favor is not for you to keep. That favor is for you to pick somebody up that needs a little lift. Let them pick somebody up. Love forward, pay forward, keep your heart. Bless the Lord. Thank you, guys.
Wow, very, very well said. Paul, don't go anywhere. Speakers, we're going to hang out in the afterglow for a minute as we wrap up, as we're anchoring us in. Final thoughts, Pastor Pablo.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to Anthony Rosa, and thank you guys for hanging out tonight. This was actually medicinal and a blessing for me, more than what you think. I just want to end by saying that cultivating optimism in life is important for several reasons. Really quick, as a pastor, I wouldn't be a pastor if I didn't give you 7 points. Number one, it's good for your mental well-being. It helps with releasing even
Yes.
antioxidants, stress, depression. So it's good cultivating optimism for mental well-being. It develops resilience. It improves your physical health. You don't wake up with these migraines all the time. You don't have high blood pressure. You just look at life differently. It helps you, number four, with enhanced relationships. Nobody wants to be around. If you watch Winnie the Pooh ever when you were small, with Eeyore, nobody wants to be around a guy who's always, you ask him, how you doing? Hey, it could be better. Good morning. What's so good about it? Nobody wants to be around thinking. So when you have good optimism, it enhances relationship. It increases your motivation and productivity. You say, I'm going to finish this. I'm going to get it done. You get goals and you do it. And number six, it gives you greater opportunities like room 308. when they see you, they say, hey, we want this guy. And every time I read the book, whether it's Daniel and the Hebrew young men, the oddballs always got picked. David, who was working with sheep, he got picked to run a kingdom. It's always the oddball. So it gives you greater opportunities. And number seven, optimism is good because it inspires others. Somebody right now is like grieving or going through something that DJ Anthony went through, and they say, oh my gosh, your story inspired, your optimism. Somebody who grew up with kids or was raising them alone like your mother did, Paul, they're inspired right now by your optimism. So those are the 7 points why optimism is so good in life. God
Wow.
bless.
And then these are all remedies, these points. So I hope that if you feel like you need to watch this again, you can always watch on the replay. And tonight I always end the show with a quote of the show. This is by Alex Uwaje. When you are focused on finding a positive angle to challenges or looking for the bright side to life, you find yourself being more optimistic. Go in grace, go in peace. This is Anthony Rosa, Mr. Remedy. You're watching another show on the Roundtable Remedies. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.